All right, welcome back, folks. Still talking with Steve Wolf. He's still here. He is, of course, the famed gun expert, stunt guy, stunt coordinator, explosive expert. And we've been talking about, in the context of the Baldwin case, this big question that Linda and I have constantly asked one another. Why in the hell is there live ammo on any movie set? Please help us understand, Steve.
Well, unless you're going to have guards checking everybody as they come in and off the set, you're going to always have the risk that live ammo is there. Especially in New Mexico, a fair proportion of the people there carry guns, and this would include people who work on movie sets. So if you're, there's some rulings that say that if you are going to deny people the opportunity to protect themselves, then you're assuming responsibility for protecting them. So people do carry guns, and even if they know they shouldn't bring their gun on set, they might have loose ammo there. There's always a presumption that there's live ammo everywhere.
All right. So if there's the thing that says no ammunition, no guns allowed, what you're saying is that you really can't enforce that because people carry them, especially in cases down in Texas and Southwest and Mexico and all these places where everyone has a gun.
Right. So there's going to be ammo there, unless you're setting up a screening point, one way in, one way out, and you're physically searching everybody. You have to assume that there's ammo there. And that is why, instead of doing a broad perimeter protection, the protection happens right at the point of the gun. So right at the moment when the gun is being loaded, it doesn't matter then, right, whether 200 people on the set have ammo. What's really relevant is, is there ammo in that gun that's being used on the set? And that's why you check the rounds before you load them. And that's a very, very simple process. Live ammo looks like this. If you look at the back, there's an intact primer there. If you shake it, very subtle, but you might hear the gunpowder in there, and there's a bullet on the end. Pretty good distinction from this one. This is what a dummy rounds look like. It actually has holes drilled through it, and it either has a fired primer or a spent primer that's been activated, with a blowtorch to take out all the lead azide so it can't fire. So these are, the idea of putting the holes on both sides like this is one, you can check to make sure that it's, the dummy round, but also that if an actor holds it, it covers up the holes. And that way it can look like they're holding live ammo, but it's not.
What's the difference between a dummy, live, and then a blank? I always hear the words blank.
Okay, sure.
Used.
All right. So dummy is designed to look, when held properly, like live ammo, but it's inert. A live round, well, it looks and feels like live ammo. And then a blank, what's missing off of here? Linda, can you tell me the difference in there?
The bullet?
Yes, one has a bullet on it, one doesn't.
Very good. Very good, class.
Right. So
I feel like I won double jeopardy.
You did. And what you've just proven here is that anyone can learn to distinguish the difference between dummy rounds, live rounds, and blank rounds, in about a minute.
So what are blank rounds being used for? Yeah, because you're right. I mean, you know me. I always tell you I know very little about guns, right?
Right.
I said that
well,
to you
you know enough now to have prevented that accident on set. So the purpose of the blank is when you're not looking down the barrel of the gun, and so you don't need to see a bullet there. You just want to hear the bang and the smoke and the fire come out of the gun, but there's no reason for a bullet to be there. In fact, if you had a bullet there, it'd be dangerous, and it would stop the amount of noise and fire that came out.
Can a blank be dangerous?
Blanks have actually killed people. So even though there's no projectile and the bullet is, covered in dog hair, maybe you like that, right? So the bullet is the part that comes out, and what goes behind it is what fires it. So if you take away the bullet, what you're left with is a blank. And blanks don't shoot bullets, but when the chemicals in here burn, they burn very quickly, and they release a tremendous amount of gas and pressure. And when that pressure comes out, where does that come out? Well, we're generating the pressure in here, and the pressure comes out right here. So you get a big plume of smoke and fire, noise, and high pressure gases. And in the case of John Hexam, who thought, a blank was harmless and inert, he actually put a blank pistol to his head and pressed the trigger, and the force of the gases coming out here cut out a circle of skull and pushed it through into his brain, killing him. So none of these things are, to be played with.
Isn't there wadding at the end of a blank as well? Or is that
Yeah,
not
there's
all?
usually a little bit of wadding,
Yeah.
a little bit of foam, or a little bit of flash paper in there. There's something to keep the gunpowder from falling out.
Okay, let me circle back to my original question, because I was going to object as non-responsive, but I didn't get around to it. Here's what I think. It sounds like the industry has said, what the hell? We've only had a couple of deaths, Halyna Hutchins and Brandon Lee back in the day of The Crow. Let's just let it fly. We're not going to spend the extra money it would take to enforce a no live ammo policy. You think that's legitimate? Is that what's happening in the industry?
No, I think that it's published on virtually every call sheet, no live ammo on the set. So it's given as a directive. I don't know how enforceable it is, but I know they try to enforce it, but it's really irrelevant, right? If you make sure that you're not putting live ammo in the gun that the actors are handling, it really doesn't matter how much other live ammo is on the set. And the presumption is all guns are always loaded until you personally prove otherwise. So you check the gun that the actors are handling. If that gun is inert, that's really what you're getting paid to do. Make sure that the actor's gun is inert.
Why isn't the armorer right there checking the gun? That's isn't. I guess what I'm hung up on is what the armorer's duties and where the armorer's duties end.
They don't end. They end in 18 months in jail. And that's because she wasn't there, and she wasn't checking the gun, and she wasn't doing her job. Now, as to why she wasn't doing her job, there may be production factors there. It's possible that someone told her to do something other than her job, at which point she should have stopped the production and said, hey, I can't both safely be the armorer and do the props and do the laundry and sweep up the set and pick up garbage after lunch. Like, which one do you want me to do? Because if you want me to be the armorer, that's all I can do. If you want me to do the other stuff, that's fine, but you got to get someone else to be the armorer. So she allowed them to divert her focus from what she was supposed to be doing, or she chose to divert her focus in any case. She's young, inexperienced, easily intimidated.
And cheap, inexpensive. And I think that gets
and very inexpensive. Yeah,
I think that gets us back to one of the questions about Baldwin in the civil matter and being a producer, which we know was excluded from the criminal trial, even though it was kind of truncated. So you've got things like budget issues, you've got experience issues, you've got manpower issues, you've got overlapping job duties. All these issues fall on the producer. Tell us a little bit about that report that you did. It was a very detailed report. It will be part of, I believe, helping settle the wrongful death case before it ever gets to trial in the case being brought by Halyna Hutchins, family members against Alec Baldwin and the production company. Distill for us down, what are the production responsibilities you think lead to liability in that case?
Well, ultimately, everything that happens on a set is the responsibility of the producer. Like they're the buck stops here person. What dilutes that a little bit, though, is that it's not always clear who the producer is, because many people can get some type of a producer credit, produced by this, that, and the other. In which case, hey, more names to put on the defense side. The producer is supposed to, or the unit production manager, they're supposed to hire competent people. They're supposed to make sure people are doing their job. If there's issues where people aren't doing their job, they're supposed to replace them. And that was really clear. This armorer came with no positive references. She'd only done this once before. She herself went on TV saying, I wasn't sure I'd be able to handle this. And she got fired from the one other movie that she'd worked on for safety violations. So,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the producers really were, pretty lax in trying to make sure that position was properly filled.
So with that in mind,
I'm sorry.
Let me just do one follow up here, if I might, Your Honor. One follow up question. That means the focus of the civil action is to show that Alec Baldwin had a hands on producer role, not just one of those guys that the name rolls over on the credits, right?
Right. He had a hands-on role both in production. He was likely the final word on anything. Probably nothing happened on that set that he didn't want to have happen, and vice versa. And then he also jumped into the director role many times after the scene was over and they were told to cut. The director told him to cut. He would overrule the director, saying, "No, one more, quick, reload me, let's do it again." And when the director yells cut, that's it. If you're just the actor, you cut, you lower your firearm, you wait till the armorer comes over and takes it from you. But he overshadowed or overruled other decisions that were being made by people who were supposed to be above him on the pecking order.
Yeah, the only other question I had is the whole issue of the Nepo babies, right? As we see them now on Twitter. Her father was a famous armorer. The armorer's father was a famous armorer. Was it ever identified as to how she got the job? Who was the connection? Who was the person that knew him that would have gotten her the job?
Yeah, we don't know how she got the job. Her dad, Thel Reed, is one of the most respected armorers, most accomplished armorers, in the world. Done hundreds of movies safely, and I would imagine that people were just hoping that there would be a genetic component to gun safety, but it proved not to, at least not to pass through the father's DNA.
Yeah, very, very tragic, no matter what the situation. Tragic for everybody here, obviously.
Yeah, no, very, very sad.
Very sad situation. Maybe, can I just have one other thing? Do you think there's going to be any changes that SAG is going to recommend or someone's going to recommend to movie safety as a result of this, Steve?
I don't think that SAG is going to change anything because the rules that they have are effective. When people don't follow the rules, there's a big breakdown. The rules have virtually always been followed. Most of the people who, with the exception of The Crow and Rust, in both cases rules were broken and inexperienced people were at the armorer's seat. The safety rules have worked, and the people who are responsible for implementing them have implemented them properly. So this would be very much like, somebody runs a red light. We don't say, "Oh, should we change the traffic light system?" The lights work when people heed to them, and the gun safety rules work when people follow them.
Wow.
Okay, let me call this the shameless plug section as we wrap things up here. What do you got going on? What's coming up? Where can we see your work other than in some litigation?
I'm going to be working on the civil case in this matter. Most of my work on that is done. It culminated with the 30-something page report, which kind of walks you through questions like what Linda had, what's the difference in a blank, a dummy round, live ammo, bullets, etc., and really walks through the gun safety rules. So now that that's behind me, for the most part, and I don't think I'll be called to testify on this. I think it'll settle. So now I can turn my time to my real passion now, which is putting out wildfires.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So
wow.
As a pyrotechnician, I had a lot of experience on set figuring out how to light fires and then put them out. And one of the technologies that I developed seems to have legs as a very, very potent new way to put out wildfires, and that's using jet engines mounted on trucks and then feeding fire retardant into the exhaust so that you can drive retardant at a fire at 300 or 400 miles an hour, literally obliterating the fire line.
Wow. I like that. Here's my comparison in my brain to that. I used to be a manager at McDonald's, and so every restaurant has a fire suppression system, and it's that kind of system where it just blasts the fire retardant on the grills or wherever it may go. this takes that to a whole another level. I think that's genius. Has you had a
it's
chance
very
to put it into
efficient.
play somewhere?
Yeah, so we've
In the real
tested this
world?
in small scale. We've tested this on a UTV with a smaller jet engine, and we found that we could put out fire very, very quickly with much less water than by other methods. And given that these wildfires are becoming more prevalent and more severe, the climate is hotter, drier, and windier, new technology really is necessary.
And you save the life of a lot of firefighters who may get caught in things. I have a
That's
friend
exactly
whose
right.
son is a firefighter out west, and always worried every time he's deployed out there. So if they had something like this would be great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it.
so
So I
if
want to
you're
see the
interested in
video
that,
of
it's
that.
teamwildfire.com has
Okay.
got the videos of the
Oh, good.
technology in play.
Great,
Okay.
great.
Teamwildfire.com. Is that it?
Wildfile.com.
Okay, I'll put a little graphic up there so we can see that. Steve, a
Super.
pleasure. Fascinating dude, doing some great work in some very interesting areas, and not the least of which is the Baldwin case. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Linda.